Wow. Amazing Grace, performed by my friend Dr. Bill Akpinar. Welcome to Queens Public Television and a conversation with Dr. Bill Akpinar. I'm Gordon Kelly. Thank you for making it here today, Bill. Tell me about that piece of music. You recorded that?
I seem to recognize that piece, Gordon. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I did that as a part of my book, and that song has touches a very special place in my heart, as you know the story, Gordon. And it's a story of human trials, tribulations, and most of all, faith, and a person who turns his life around and changes path into a much better direction in life.
A mindfulness, an awareness, a spiritual re-enlightenment. John Newton, I think he wrote Amazing Grace 1798 or something about that. He was a sailor out at sea, and he prayed to God to save him, and he had an epiphany, and it changed his life. And today's program is also dedicated to a friend of mine. He just passed away at 83 years of age, Reverend Dr. Renwick Jackson. And he was a dean at York and Queensborough Community College, and president of St. Mary's, and he always said to look for your answer through love. So many people are looking for an answer through fears and inhibitions. And that leads me into today's topic with Dr. Bill about empowering ourselves, a spiritual enlightenment. You had mentioned, Bill, about the book that you had written. You've written several books. They're all on health and healing as a medical doctor, a naturopath, a physician, a PhD, the connection between disease and health and our own inhibitions and how many of our repressed emotions manifest themselves as diseased. Could you comment a little bit on that, Bill?
Yes. The last one, which I wrote, 7 Priceless Prescriptions, sums it up. I pretty much bring all of this into focus, so to speak, and touch upon those prescriptions that I give my friends, my patients, my family, which are priceless. They're free, and you can't put a price on them because they're so valuable. How to breathe, engaging in some form of sweat therapy, proper modes of eating, not overeating, the importance of growth, of sleep, of laughter, of loving, and all of these contribute to the balance in mind, body, spirit. And that is one of the imbalances, or what you stated before, so importantly, dis-ease in our society and in our world today.
Another word would also be a discipline, a self-discipline that many people are just lacking. They're coming to you, doctor, I'm paying you all this money, fix me. I'm sick. I don't want to be responsible. Give me that pill, give me that prescription. And as we well know, 10,000 people a day are turning 65. It's a tsunami coming down for Medicare, Medicaid. They're not prepared for any of this. But many of these health alternatives that you were talking about, you're trained as a medical doctor, and they're almost cost effective. They cost nothing at all. The former head of the Defense Department said his biggest expense was not airplanes and bullets, munitions. It was the health insurance, skyrocketing every day. The #1 cause of bankruptcy in America today is people's medical bills. What about this medical system that in relationship in this nation, and your comments on that, Bill? You're finding that relationship.
Yeah, you know, Gordon, the system is broke. It's broken, and it definitely needs fixing. You know, like everything, it begins with a little ripple, and the ripple will expand, and hopefully we will have a tidal wave of change. You know, President Obama echoed this, the fact that we have the most dysfunctional, inefficient medical system imaginable in 2009 in his inaugural address. And when you look at the tragedy of the fact that we are such a developed, highly civilized, so-called civilized society with such a high GDP expenditure on healthcare, $7,000+ per person, twice of any civilized or highly technologically developed country, and we're ranked number 72 by the World Health Organization as far as effectiveness. 50 million people, 50 million plus people, I would say at this point, are uninsured, and they don't have access to health care. And you know, they estimate the figures range from 14,000 to 50,000, those that die because of the lack of medical care. Now let's look at the ones that are insured and they're denied care by insurers. That's a whole separate story. We could do a whole show on that. I started my career as a consultant inadvertently because I dialed one digit of a phone number wrong. Well, that didn't last long because I wasn't into denying, delaying, and depriving people of care. That's something that's expected. And it's a tragedy. I mean, this system is really broken. I'm in it. I've seen many systems in different parts of the world, and we have a long way to go.
Speaking of that broken system, many of these bankruptcies that you and I are discussing, these are people that are insured.
That's the tragedy, Gordon. 67% or something like that, according to the statistics, in 2007 filed for bankruptcy because of medical bills they could not pay.
Bill, you were trained in pain management.
Yes.
And one of the #1 reasons people enter a doctor's office is they have pain. What is this pain and its relationship to disease, and is it really a relationship from a psychosomatic? I mean, yes, you do have a car accident, you do have, you're burned on the stove, you fall ice skating, or any number of ways you are injured in an accident, but many of these unrelated diseases, such as what would we consider dementia. Is dementia almost a coping mechanism? We've heard many people, as they become older and senile, think that they're Napoleon. And it becomes a coping mechanism, and many family members are, do you want this person to be melancholy and depressed, or be a happy Napoleon running around the house and the neighborhood? And this is an escape, in a way, much of our disease.
Yeah,
or manifesting a denial.
Yeah, there's so many theories on that, Gordon, you know, and that's still yet to be explored horizon. Maybe they're the sane ones and we're insane, we don't know.
Yes.
I mean, that may very well be. I mean, what they're seeing may be a form of reality, but it is definitely cascading and it's multiplying at an unimaginable rate. And I do believe that with the right lifestyle, or at least modification, it could be prevented or delayed or minimized. I mean, it is possible. I mean, you know, I've seen people in different cultures who live a very simplistic life, relying on naturopathic remedies that seem to have incredible health well into their 80s, 90s, and have a very short period of illness prior to death. And that's the ideal situation.
You had mentioned about other cultures and everything, and I am always so thrilled when I talk to you, Bill. And if there's a nation in the world, a country in the world, Bill, you've been there.
Pretty much.
and many of these trips you've taken with your beautiful son, Adam, your beautiful daughter, Melissa. I've known them since they were young children. But, you know, for us in our culture, we look at something as a quick fix, a remedy. People are not prepared for many months, perhaps many years of a commitment to their own health at little or no cost. You had mentioned some of these things, our diet, spiritualism. What would be some of these other things, no cost or little cost, that people can start to incorporate today? You don't want to make a radical change, but certainly it's an empowering, and when you feel that you have more of a control over your life and what you're doing, from some very simple things of, you know, just getting up and doing, as we spoke earlier about Tai Chi in the morning. When would that routine happen? And what are the benefits of doing? We're down here in Flushing, Queens now, and you're out in the morning and there's people in the parks doing Tai Chi, people are out running, exercising. What are some of the benefits of these, Bill?
These are wonderful adjuncts, Gordon. These are ancient practices. I start my day by doing, I'd say, about a good half hour of yoga, half hour of Tai Chi, Qigong, looking at the world upside down, doing a headstand, bringing blood circulation to my brain, some breathing exercises, and then some meditation. And, I try to follow as much of a middle path or moderation, so to speak, and they're pretty easy. If you look at the ancient cultures, these practices are embodied in these cultures. They're a part of the culture. Here, people get up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, a donut or something, running to work, I'm in a hurry. Well, you've got to take time for yourself. If you don't slow down, nature has a way of slowing you down. That's an inherent truth. And these old civilizations have their mechanisms built into their lifestyle. I mean, I've seen this in Tibet. They practice a form of meditation and mind, body, spirit practice. In India, as we know, yoga, the union, is the ancient practice, is the ancient healing art. Tai Chi, of course, Kung Fu. Many of these cultures have similar practices. I wouldn't put one as better than the other. It's a cultural thing. But we certainly lack that.
To incorporate this into our daily routine today, something as simple as working out. You brought in today these fantastic icons. Obviously, you've picked these up in your world travels, Bill.
Yes.
And this one to your immediate right, what?
This is Kuan Yin, the spirit of compassion and mercy. And that's something we need more of in our world, because that's something that's disappearing, unfortunately.
I mentioned your beautiful children, and I'm very proud that Bill and I, it's now generations of the Kellys and the Akpinars knowing each other.
Yes.
I remember your grandmother so well.
God rest his soul, yes.
Your parents remember my grandparents, and now our kids, we're seeing them come up. And one of the things that we learned from our grandparents and our parents was this great kindness and an understanding. It was a resource for us how to act within the parameters of being civil and decent and kind. And when you're blowing your car horn at someone and you're yelling and screaming at someone else, they're gone out of sight. But an hour later, you're still fuming and angry and pissed off at these people. Yeah. And there's a great imbalance. It's almost like our society is in dis-ease.
Yes, yes. It's so true, Gordon. One of the things I emphasize in my book is take 3 long, deep breaths. Most people have forgotten how to breathe, or they never learned it. Just watch a baby breathe. And if you take a deep breath or 2 or 3 before you do something crazy, it may actually save your life or save someone else's life. We did have that compassion and that mercy given to us, and God knows what I put my poor grandmother and my parents through.
Oh, she was great.
Lord, my Lord, being
always
ADD
with you.
And a troublemaker and everything, and how I wound up here. It's
and I
God
consistently
mercy.
saw you, Bill, with your children all the time.
Yes.
At Memorial Field,
yes.
Whether it was bike riding or playing softball. And your travels around the world, these more native Aborigine type peoples, they are like hunter-gatherers for the most part, and they really have an extended family. So much is missing of that today in our society. People are living alone. Tai Chi is a great way to connect with people.
Yes.
What are some of the other spiritual connections? I want to talk more than just about, the medicine, but this whole, as bad thoughts and bad energy. You taught me a great exercise out on Memorial Field one day with Tai Chi of blowing out the negative energy and pulling up the energy from the earth and showering it over at us. Dr. Bill Akpinar is with me today, and this is a conversation with Dr. Bill, and we're just discussing some of these non-cost, totally effective, ancient, wise ways of maintaining our health. Bill, tell us a little bit more about where you've been in the world and you see this extended family.
Well, to answer your question before, Gordon, one of the key components to the mental health aspect of our existence is a sense of community. We've lost it. In a lot of these cultures that I see, I've seen this in the Aboriginal cultures, to some extent in the Native American culture, the Amazonian cultures, a lot of the Eastern and African cultures. There is a sense of community sharing the joy as well as the pain, and we've lost that connection here. Everything has become high tech, you know. Even the act of sitting together in a family room and watching TV and having popcorn together, that's disappeared. Everyone has their own personal devices, and the connection has been lost. So we've become a very individualized society. People have to go to a shrink or a psychologist or social to vent their problems, while in the past, you know, it was done in a
We would go to our grandparents.
Right.
We'd go to an aunt and uncle.
Exactly. Exactly. So a lot of these cultures, although it's changing, they've still managed to retain that sense of community. And, you know, this is one of the most important components to mental health in a community. We don't have that.
Bringing that to your practice today, many of these things that are lacking in people, people are addicted to serious alcohol or gambling or drugs to fill a void that is missing in their life. It was Dr. Benjamin Spock who said that today's parents are sacrificing their kids for the sake of getting ahead. I saw you continually with your children, hands-on. And people that come into your office with different illnesses, different problems, what are some of these things that manifest themselves that way? I mean, and how do you diagnose this, or how do you get beyond, okay, obviously a broken arm or a heart attack, a stroke, you know that, but many of these diseases, what is the diagnosis? How do you come to, you know, listen, I can load you up on chemotherapy. It's now come out that's one of the most toxic, worst things you can do for anybody, spiritually and emotionally. In Europe, they'd send somebody with an emotional, psychological problem, they'd tell them, take 2 weeks vacation. Yeah. You know, take time off, be around family and friends. When someone comes into your office, Bill, complaining of pain, is it often could be traced back to the psycho?
Well, that's an important point, Gordon, because big part of my practice is pain management. Combining my background in anesthesiology, acupuncture, pain management, dentistry, and my further training in medicine, I treat a lot of pain syndromes to the head, face, neck. A lot of these involve trauma, car accidents, falls, but at the root, there is always some psychological, emotional component attached to it as well that exacerbates it, or sometimes that has something to do with it, even though the injury is traumatic in nature. There are always other variables, and the variable, the component that I try to bring into the equation is one of the holistic equation, utilizing faith. You know, most problems that people have, psychological problems, are not problems of psychology, but they're problems related to spirituality or the lack of spirituality. So faith, hope, and love have to be brought into the equation. If you look at a person and say, you've got 6 months to live, chances are they're going to die in 6 months. I mean, I've seen it happen. And people have told me, you know, they told these doctors are so great. They told my father he's going to die in 6 months, and lo and behold, he died in 6 months.
Bill, you've seen this with the shaman.
Oh yeah.
And with the Indian doctor who will tell somebody, go out and go see the bone doctor, go sit underneath that tree. This mind is incredible, that connection. And can it be this equally as powerful in the same way to rid yourself of this disease? If it's powerful enough to shut you down and cause you to lose your life energy, wouldn't it therefore be the other way around, that the warm embrace, the opening up your channels with an acupuncture, with a simple massage therapy, having reflexology, these other channels to open up this dis-ease?
Yeah, we utilize them all, Gordon, as you've seen. And really, when you do, you see miracles happen. You know, we don't
Miracles.
We don't rely on, we don't ask for miracles, we depend on miracles. I see people in states so far gone, and a lot of time they've just lost faith. They lost everything. You know, when someone's involved in a motor vehicle accident, they can't work. They've lost the connection to their family because after 3-4 months, nobody wants to hear them complain about the pain anymore. I'm in pain, I can't move. They can't work. A lot of times they get fired or they can't perform their job. And to compound the pain and the misery, the cherry on the cake is the insurance companies, which deny care, or they have these so-called bogus experts, these independent medical examiner types who examine these patients and give their findings that they are fine and there's nothing wrong, well-paid medical opinions. I wouldn't even call them medical opinions. So it's a real stressor, and many of these people are alone. They're alone, they feel fear, they feel panic, and you know, to someone losing their house, their job, their family, the connection to who they are, what they were, it's a tragedy. And you know, when you bring in faith, you bring in positivity, you try to give them hope, you try to give them, you know, an emphatic approach, it really goes far in the healing equation.
As I said earlier, we dedicated this program to my friend Reverend Dr. Renwick Jackson.
God rest his soul. Yeah.
God rest his soul is right. And he also would always say, if you're looking for your answer from love, through love you can find your answer. If you're trying to react through fear, that's blocking all these health issues and different things. And relating to what you said about President Obama's inaugural speech and promise, what are your thoughts about the Obamacare and his health? Will that be a better system? Do you think? We know this system is broken, totally
Right.
dysfunctional.
Right.
People are at a loss, losing their homes. Is there anything with your experience, with your colleagues, that with this Obamacare might be going in a certain direction, or?
I think the essence, the core of it, like everything else, involves good intentions. It involves faith and hope and a sense of wanting to better our society and people. What it's going to turn out to be, God only knows, because you know, these things become convoluted. Fair. The end product is never what it begins as, and you know, there's the equation, the human greed equation that, you know, and you see this is rampant. You know, you look at the statistics in the U.S., you look at the amount of money spent per capita, and you look at the level, the quality of care is probably so low. You know, look at life expectancy. Cuba is number 35. We're 42 in life expectancy, for God's sakes. 42. You know, so I mean,
I recently became certified by the Queen's Bar Association in their guardianship program. And the general consensus I got is that in the United States here, you as a patient are really nothing more than a commodity.
Unfortunately,
and
yes.
every night that hospital bed is empty, somebody is losing money. You have the detail men trying to farm out their drugs and, you know, get this kickback. And we hear the horror stories every day. I think it was just another pharmaceutical company was just indicted on bribing officials in Russia or China. In China, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it's a false. It's not a good. As I look at your little icon here and this other one, there's something that's so false about it. And trying to incorporate, Bill, not only a modern Western as a modern Western doctor, what are some of the other incorporations that you're putting into your practice?
Well, as I indicated before, Gordon, I try to bring all of the good things that I picked up from my studies, from the scriptures, from personal experience. You know, they say use what's in the world of Eastern medicine. Take what's good, use it, discard the bad. So anything that doesn't work, get rid of it. And take things that are time-tested. The scriptures have a lot of good medicine, you know, a lot of wisdom related to how to eat, sleeping, peace of mind. And if you apply this to any existing medical system, it's going to get better. Let's face it, you're not going to get rid of Western medicine, and there's no reason to get rid of it, because you're not going to have a guy holding chicken feathers over a fractured bone or a heart attack. That's not going to work. But by the same token, it's overpowering everything, and people are being tested, they're being overtreated, overprescribed, and I believe that people are finally beginning to integrate. They call that integrative medicine.
Yes.
Integrate the world of holistic or naturopathic medicine into this medicine. That's why I've established the University of Health and Spiritual Sciences, and I'm Dean of the University of Natural Medicine. We are at the forefront globally of bringing natural medicine and spiritual medicine, actually, into an integrated model with Western medicine.
I'm so glad you brought up the university that you founded, Bill.
Yes.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we just have a few moments now and we're going to wrap up. And I can't thank you enough for coming down here today. And we're going to be hearing Dr. Bill Akpinar playing Amazing Grace on the upcoming music that's coming on here. I can't thank you enough, Bill. Thank you for being here today.
God bless you, Gordon, and God bless the crew and the producers of this great company. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Queens Public Television. And if you'd like further information, you may contact Dr. Bill at his office. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you, Gordon.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, now I see.